do its independent work. Or do you follow my intent there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just to point out, the reason I'm here is not so much the complaint, is that I'm happy to see that you formed this committee to set up the parameters for the investigation. I've been involved in an investigation in the past, and it was poorly run. It's my understanding it was set up by one person, not the council, which I didn't understand. One of the things that the investigator, who was Engelmeyer, stated to us is that he was never given the power to do that job. Now, and I was going to interrupt a while ago. You said that he has subpoena power. He does not have subpoena power.
No, he doesn't. The council doesn't.
That's what I'm getting.
But we could have given him subpoena power.
That's exactly right. You have to come back to you. You need to give him the subpoena power up front. It's almost it changes everything. And then probably. Oh, and then he was also instructed not to give a recommendation. He was to investigate. He did give a recommendation, which I don't understand. Just really. All right, and then probably the foremost. Another thing was we had a lot of things that weren't quite public. One of them was, and this is to Engelmeyer, who stated how many times he had done investigations, and he immediately questioned me, because I was going to be interviewed, who the person was videotaping. And I introduced her, said the reason I was doing it, and a man who has done this multiple times said, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that." He had to leave the room and go and see the city administrator. And I understand that the city attorney Young was there too, to say, no, he can't. Okay, I went along with it. Found out later, no, that's not true. So we got some real problems here. And then to conclude it all, the council shut the investigation down in the middle of the investigation. You can't do that. You've got to have something set up, and you just got to follow through. I mean, it's outrageous when it was shut down. I was the only witness that wasn't called, and I was the only witness that wasn't involved in the case. I was strictly a person who went to a committee or to a meeting of our ward. And also, I would like you to, and you've had this before. I've actually talked to a couple other people who really get. I wrote a letter on October, I believe, June 1st. Anyway, I've got a receipt here of October 20th. I wrote it and then it came later. Anyway, you have a copy. You all have received it of what happened. How I received an email from the investigator giving me 24 hours to comply or be subpoenaed, and not even told what it was about. You can read, and this is all the attachments are there. Everything, it was outrageous the way it was set up and the way it was done, and just the mere fact that the council shut it down, and that just doesn't make any sense. That's
in that case, the investigator was not independent. I talked to him for 2 hours. Remember?
What's that?
He was not independent.
So anyway, I hope you come up with procedure, and that's the big thing. And I know this isn't going to be the procedure. You're going to do it later in committee, but I'm really happy to see that, and that's the way it should be. There's no doubt. I mean, the city can't do what it did before. So luckily it was just me, and luckily I didn't know kind of what was going on. Obviously, I've been around people who pretty well know who I am.
So I can say.
But anybody else, it would have been terrible for anyone else that just come in with the cold, and like when the investigator when I questioned it, and of course that was brought out at the council meeting, that I was not being forthright, I wasn't coming out. The mayor himself said, you might want to get an attorney. And that's what I said, I think maybe I need to see an attorney here, because you're not coming up with what, you know, and also, I'm going to be witnessing against a sitting council person, which was unnecessary too, because you had it on videotape. The mayor was there, council people were there, he didn't even need me. He had plenty of evidence. But anyway, that's another story.
So what I will say is at least for the subcommittee, that everything will be transparent. There will be no going into the other room and having a conversation.
As it should be. As it should be.
And I think the only thing that I guess will not be completely visible is our conversations with these attorneys when we call them individually. But other than that,
You have
I had one more. Who has the power to hire this person?
City council.
The entire council,
Yeah.
not you,
Correct.
not.
correct.
It has to
So
be
you
a
have
council.
a week and a half before you can actually hire this person.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah, I would, if you allow me to comment, first, you know, admin public works, I see it as a mandate from the council. We're going to come up with some clear procedures, you know, scope of what's involved here, and that is our job, is to bring it back to the council and say, here's the scope, here's the framework, however you want to call it, for this investigation, and then it will be up to the council to move forward and determine whether we go ahead.
December 10th at the earliest.
Assuming that next week's meeting takes care of everything, and my plan is it's going to be a late meeting, so I think we'll cover everything we need to do.
Okay, just clarification.
So, you know, hopefully join us, but, you know, the council, I would imagine that the council will be presented with what we were asked to do, and then it's up to the council to determine, say, basically, go forward or not. I would imagine we would need to get an RFP from the attorney, come back with the cost of what it's going to be involved so we can authorize that expenditure. I don't know what it costs to do something
A lot of
like
work in
that.
a week and a half.
Yeah.
So
I have a question.
Those are just my thoughts and comments.
Right, who usually prepares the RFPs?
when we did the city attorney, we asked them to just submit a bid.
I mean, who prepares the actual request for proposal
Well,
document?
admin public works, we would work with the city administrator, but you
Yeah,
know
that's a
that's
problem.
going to be a problem. Plus, he's no longer going to be in
Well,
that
he'll be
role.
around,
But
potentially.
maybe then we would have to defer to, I mean, we could ask the city attorney, or we could ask someone else from the city.
Okay, I think he needs to
We would
prepare
need
with that
we need to come
direction.
up with that discussion and figure it out. Are you recommending me? Oh, no, Joe?
It should be you.
Oh,
I mean, I would
okay.
think, would Vicki handle it?
Well, no, I think that it has to be a city staff member that prepares it. I think probably likely it'll be
true.
the city attorney.
It's just an RFP.
Yeah.
But why can't the city clerk do it?
Yeah, the city clerk.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
then
if the city administrator typically does, the clerk
Very-
is sort of.
it's gonna be very straightforward.
Boilerplate language from.
So we're going to have to do that, and, you know, we're going to have to present it to the attorney that gets, you know,
Okay.
selected, and therefore, you know, that's, obviously, this council
I'm
will
gonna write that down as part of our goals, or, you know, a roundup bullet point that we're gonna recommend towards.
The RFP includes scope of work.
Yes.
I don't think you can anticipate a man that can prepare that.
No.
Somebody's going to have to prepare that
City
for
attorney.
me.
Attorney's gonna have to do it.
Attorney.
Well, we'll define that, if that's our intention at the next meeting.
You guys can
So-
actually write scope.
So yes, we
Yeah.
should be able to come out of next week's meeting with, here's what's in scope, you know, what
Yeah.
ordinance, charter, whatever it is, any parameters that we want to determine, because it is up to the council to do that investigation, but I think the charter is what says it should. We just need to be specific as to what it is. That's it. And that's our duty, and that's what we're going to fulfill.
So, next speaker is Dan.
Okay. I won't bring up the Porter issue. Obviously, we can understand that we spent $7,800 and dropped the whole issue. And the reason being is my attorney told me not to speak because it was an illegal investigation. No one was subpoenaed, and there was a judge did not rule on giving him permission to hold this investigation.
Deposition.
The depositions that were taken. But to this meeting, from the very beginning, it sounded like you guys didn't want to have to meet again. So I would have thought that everyone would have came prepared with a list of attorneys. You could have discussed them, and to Mr. Bertolino's point, Mr. Salvatore would expect expediency to this process, and that I think Mr. Bertolino would also, I would think if this committee decided on an attorney, would accept that. Obviously, you said you wouldn't because...
Didn't say that.
Okay, you didn't say
No,
that.
that's it. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, but anyway, it looks like we want to move this process forward.
Mhm.
And I would think that if we come up with an attorney's name tonight and bring it to admin, we'd definitely be doing everyone a big favor.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thanks.
So maybe just a thought here, since we haven't made that motion, but the discussion was, that we would take some time to make phone calls. Maybe this committee may want to meet a half hour before the admin public works meeting, and we can make that decision there, so we can go right into admin public works with the attorney that the committee has selected. Looking for thoughts.
You're getting into the next step.
So maybe we'll wait till then. Just a thought.
Okay.
I didn't want to lose it, but I'm just trying to see how that process can keep
When you do
moving.
that, make sure you post it.
Yes.
Yes, it would be another meeting just like this
So
one.
the next speaker is Kevin.
Hi, okay, so I have questions, will you answer questions?
Yes.
Okay.
But don't go past y'all.
So one of the concerns that I have about some of this is, since Greg didn't come with any names, Joe and Tammy, I guess Tammy first, was there any possibility that any of the people who are listed in the complaint talked to you about who for you to call?
Who, me? No.
Joe, were you approached or emailed by any of the people who are listed in the complaint about contacting or coming here with the name that you came with?
Absolutely not, and I would not want to have that conversation to keep it clean.
Okay, cool.
And that's, in fact, it's even a more cautious approach. That's why I didn't even call the name, because I didn't know how far we wanted to go as a group here.
Okay, so I know the firm that you brought forward. I don't know, I know the name that Tammy talked about because I've read about him in the news. Recently, yes, it had something to do with yesterday about something with Attorney Attorney Brighton's office. So I read about Pedroli, so that's kind of funny. I checked to make sure. But with the name that Stephen Clark with Cannon and Tolan, I know Mr. Cannon personally very well. He's a Eureka resident. He used to be a police officer in Eureka.
From Tolan?
No,
Oh,
Mr. Cannon,
Yeah.
the primary at the firm.
Okay, got it.
They mainly, the type of law that they do is auto accidents, medical malpractice, workers' comp, wrongful death, misdiagnosis, and birth injuries. Mr. Clark is not listed as an attorney at their firm. Only Josh Tolan and Mike Cannon are. I did look up Mr. Clark while we were sitting here after I looked at Mr. Pedroli, and Mr. Clark is listed, though, when you have to, I just did a Google on him.
You missed this one here.
Well, that was at the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office.
So what he read is exactly what he,
Pass that around.
Yeah.
is exactly what he came up with. I will say that I am concerned because one of the people that is mentioned in the complaint, his office is a block over from this attorney's office. His job. Eureka's a small town.
I never knew that.
Is this the same?
I don't know.
And because
It's a much tighter
it's
community.
a much
than
tighter
ours.
community.
Apparently you know, I don't know.
And so I'm going to be honest,
Okay.
I have a conflict as a resident. When you said, oh, well, if you want to shock as a resident, I do. Because of the fact that one of the people who is listed in the complaint, his business is about maybe a block or two over. Eureka is a very small town. And, yeah,
Geographically.
a little bit, well, yeah, but it's a concern to me. I really wasn't going to speak tonight except on one of the persons at the last admin and public meeting, public remarks, and it had to do with something that was written. But I think y'all talked a little bit about not using Mr. Engelmeyer's. I mean, I think what I got confused about when I listened to y'all talk about this at council when Mr. Gragnani and Mr. Werther brought this up is what Mr. Engelmeyer came back at y'all with was an opinion. That's why you all got to take it to the next level. It wasn't a fight. I mean, it was his opinion, and that's strictly all it was. It was an opinion, his opinion, just like I'm giving you my opinion. So I'm proud of you all that at your admin and public works meeting that you all decided to take this on and find somebody who is completely independent. I would hope going forward that resolution 2307, I think, and 2308 are redone. If you're going to have a special investigator, find one every time. Why have one person? That builds so much connection to the city of Wildwood. One thing I want to state too that not only was Mr. Engelmeyer a conflict for you guys, but for this case it was a little bit. And I brought this to Mr. Engelmeyer's concern. Just as Mr. Young is y'all's attorney, Mr. Engelmeyer is the city of Chesterfield's attorney.
That's right.
I think there's a little bit of conflict there. So I'm going to end with saying that, but I just wanted to make sure that neither of you had known, the people that you brought forth, or that the people who have been listed in the complaints haven't spoken to either of you or Mr. Stein to encourage you to bring somebody's name forward.
Did you ask him?
Yeah, I asked him, and he said he didn't have any names.
I haven't brought any names, but I haven't talked to anybody.
I just didn't know if anyone listed in the complaint encouraged you to contact. And I just am being fair. I mean, you came with a name, you didn't, but that's all.
Right, clear it up.
Just trying to be,
Yep.
And I will be forthcoming. I have made no recommendations to anybody about this, and nor will I.
all right, thank you. So, yeah, good.
It's, what you pointed out about Engelmeyer is exactly why I said earlier, my opinion was that he was conflicted, was because he's the city attorney down there.
Well, yes, and if I recall reading Mr. Salvatore's dismissal that he wrote, he views something in the city of Chesterfield, and he's also their prosecutor. That's conflict.
Right.
That's a conflict. Just as Ms. Proust, hers was a conflict.
Well, the conflict that I think is most outstanding for Mr. Engelmeyer is the same conflict that Ms. Proust has, which is she's appointed
I'm sorry.
she's nominated and appointed by the mayor and with the consent of council.
Yeah.
She has an additional one, is that she's actually a material witness in the complaint because she's named in it. But Mr. Engelmeyer failed to identify this conflict and took on, I think we're up to 3 now, 3 complaints against a council member and or a mayor, and did not reveal that. I'm kind of stupefied that I didn't figure it out, actually, because, or maybe I did and I just, have grown weary of trying to point obvious things out to this council, but yeah, I mean, I think that's an egregious problem that he needs to be called accountable for. That is separate from this, but not really, because this is currently in his hands, and no one has said anything.
I'm sorry.
No one has said anything about it. It's currently in his hands, according to Molly Proust. He's in possession of this, and I would think that at this point he was going to step aside for the fact that we have our own investigation. But he needs to be accountable for his failure to disclose that conflict. Maybe we can get to that in another meeting, but it needs to be dealt with.
Okay.
You know, here's the thing. We're going to set records straight with this investigation, okay? And that's needed, that's a cleansing that needs to happen to satisfy the complainant and to satisfy the reputation of the city and its elected bodies to be accountable for what they do here. But we have some serious house cleaning to do. If our assistant special prosecutor can run around the city rendering opinions on matters of legality and ordinance violation without disclosing a conflict, we have a problem.
I think the issue is with our procedure that's in the ordinance, and picking a special prosecutor, like you said, creates a history, and that entangles, and it also means that your prosecutor isn't maybe the best one for every single thing. So the other thing, and I think this goes to the public comment that the mayor submitted for the meeting, which is the same as, I believe, as what he submitted to Admin Public Works. I think that's the date right here, October 30th. Is that, you know, he brings up that complaints were investigated and essentially dismissed for no probable cause pursuant to the required process. This is for ethics, independent from what this investigation is doing. So, I mean, we're again getting a little far afield, so I guess we'll bring it back in. Anybody else? Sir?
The only thing I would say in terms of Mr. Engelmeyer with regard to the Board of Ethics, he had ex parte communications with one of the people that a complaint was written about. He stepped outside of the room to discuss with that individual. He has no business being the special prosecutor for the city, period, for anything.
Yeah. Would you mind filling out a card just for...
Sure.
Sure. You're being punished.
This is not the first time.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, just taking notes, I don't usually do that. Can you just restate that for me, that you had mentioned regarding the...
I believe, I'm not an attorney, so I can't say exactly what ex parte communication is, but during the hearing, the Board of Ethics hearing on the Salvatore case, the city attorney stepped outside. It was
campaign finance.
Campaign finance.
PAC and the candidate.
PAC and the candidate.
And he stepped outside and had discussion with one of the people that the complaint was written about. He admitted that he had other phone conversations with this individual. And he had no business. The week before. And he had no business being contacted by that individual or having any contact with him.
Can I add just one thing, too? He did make a great point. When Mr. Salvatore's complaint was being heard by Mr. Engelmeyer called and asked Mr. Salvatore to come up and meet him up here at City Hall. And I came to the meeting. I was there. Mr. Salvatore called me. Mr. Engelmeyer asked that it not be videotaped. It wasn't. There was a lot of information that shouldn't have been discussed. So I don't think it's appropriate that whoever the special investigator is, he needs to be transparent and he has to be open and unbiased. That is so important right now.
Conflict-free.
Conflict-free. He can't have ever had any dealings with any of the people who Mr. Salvatore has listed in his complaint.
And I think that's something we're going to have to discuss at admin is
very much
procedures for interviews like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to make a comment about what Mr. Smith said. He used the term ex parte communication. You understand that you and I and Mr. Berlino and all the other members of the council are judges in this case. We can discuss this to a limited degree amongst ourselves. We cannot discuss it with the attorneys until such time that they are before us in judgment. We cannot discuss it with the parties involved. We can't be a party to any communications outside the jurisdiction of the court. So we are basically, in this case, a court, okay? And I hope you understand that, because that's a critical issue in jurisprudence. And I'm not a lawyer, but I understand the law. I've been there and done that, okay?
So bring that up on Tuesday as well, because I think that we should put that in the instructions.
This is why I wrote all those emails to all of you.